Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation on how retailers are running green data operations with Google Cloud and MongoDB. I'm Ben Cole, Executive Editor of Custom Media at TechTarget, and I'm joined by Denise Pearl, Global ISV Lead of Sustainability at Google Cloud, and Genevieve Broadhead, MongoDB's Retail Industry Solutions Principal. To start, let's talk about what Google Cloud and MongoDB are doing in terms of the environmental impact of their platforms. Denise, can you tell us a little bit about Google's milestones and initiatives?
Absolutely. Google's actually been on a 3 decade journey around climate and sustainability. And we really think about it along three different pillars. We think about our own corporate sustainability. So, how is Alphabet or Google doing with our own sustainability goals? And we publish a sustainability report every year, which I encourage everyone to read. We also try to help our consumers. Some of you may be familiar with some of the products that Google makes available, things like Gmail to our consumers. And we like to offer small sustainability nudges within those products. And then, of course, cloud sustainability. So, Google Cloud offers infrastructure and services to great partners like MongoDB, and we want to make sure that we're doing that in a sustainable way as well. So, if you think about our corporate sustainability, we were the first major company actually to reach carbon neutrality way back in 2007, which is fantastic. And since then, we moved towards 100% renewable, which means that Google purchases enough renewable energy globally in order to cover the carbon emissions of our entire footprint. We are now moving on a journey towards carbon free energy. So instead of just acquiring the renewable energy, we're really on a mission now to make sure that every facility that Google operates can be powered by green energy, 7 by 24 by 365. I also mentioned we insert these small nudges into our consumer products. And maybe some of the folks watching are familiar with tools like Google Maps. And inside Google Maps now, if you go in, you'll see that there continue to be options for routing based on time, based on toll. But now you can also consider eco routing. So, what is the most sustainable route to get you from point A to point B? We're also doing things inside Google Flights. So, if you're purchasing travel, you can now see the carbon emissions associated with any flight that you might be selecting, which is wonderful. And then, like I said, the last piece is around our cloud infrastructure, our data centers, where we host infrastructure for partners like MongoDB. In that, like I said, we are currently on the journey to ensure that each of those data centers is powered 7 by 24 by 365 by carbon free energy. It's a huge goal to do that by 2030, but at Google, we like these big problems. So you can see here a map of the progress that we're making. In 2022, obviously, we were at 64% carbon free, which is pretty remarkable. And a few of the data centers were upwards of 90, 85%. So we still have some work to do, though. You can see some of the gaps in the map, but really looking forward to making our progress on this journey. So, Genevieve, I know you wanted to speak a little bit about what Mongo is doing as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, MongoDB is built on cloud service providers like Google. And so anything that Google is doing in the space of sustainability echoes on into our product as well. Our most recent environmental commitment includes being 100% powered by renewables by 2026, and we're planning to hit net zero carbon emissions by 2030. So, exactly the same as Google, we're doing everything we can to reduce our environmental footprint and become more sustainable to create that really sustainable platform for our customers.
Excellent. And for organizations such as retailers who are building platforms on Google Cloud and MongoDB, how does using your technology enable them to run sustainably from an IT perspective?
Let me take the first piece of this, Ben. So, as Genevieve mentioned, people building applications that support retailers, we have to think about the sustainability of the infrastructure that's powering those solutions. And so, this is again where Genevieve mentioned Google Cloud has really been leaning in to make our data centers some of the most efficient in the world. We did incredible projects over the last couple of years to do optimization. We build our own chipsets, as a matter of fact, to again increase the efficiencies of our data centers. And all of that affords us the opportunity to provide the most sustainable infrastructure, or some of the most sustainable infrastructure for our partners like Mongo.
It's all about creating a more sustainable footprint in the cloud. And the database footprint can often be a large part of that as we gather more and more data, especially in the retail space. It's estimated that about 40% of database instances are about one size larger than it's needed. They're being sized for the troughs at the end of the week instead of the normal run. By moving to the cloud and by moving to database services on the cloud, retailers are able to right size their instances. So they're not consuming resources and kind of creating that environment for environmental impact where it's not needed. So, database as a service deployments like MongoDB Atlas benefit from that economy of scale. Us as a company at MongoDB have also tried to make sure that our database as a service platform is as sustainable as possible. We've re engineered the Atlas platform to reduce power consumption by 30% across the board. And we've built in tooling so that our customers, the retailers that are building on this platform, can make sure that they're only using the resources they need through automation, auto scaling, so they can scale up and down when the traffic increases and back down at the end. We've even got serverless deployments for bursty applications. It's in this way that you can make sure you're only using those resources that you really need.
Excellent. Can you talk a little bit more about for those organizations that want to ensure they're using the technology in the most environmentally way possible? How can they do that?
So, Ben, one of the things that Google Cloud felt obligated to do on behalf of our customers and partners was, like you said, to build out tooling so that on a pretty regular basis, they could go into their Google Cloud console and basically see the carbon benefit of running infrastructure on a cloud that is now powered by 100% renewable energy. What that means is that if you're running infrastructure anywhere outside of Google Cloud, you are probably consuming energy in order to do that. And unless that energy is renewable energy, there is a carbon footprint associated with it. So anyone who moves a workload like Mongo to Google Cloud immediately benefits from the fact that our data centers are powered by 100% renewable energy. We want to demonstrate that benefit, like I said, in a report where customers can go and quickly understand what is the carbon benefit of running that infrastructure on Google Cloud. We released a tool called Carbon Footprint Monitoring. It's available to any customer free of charge inside their Google Cloud console. They can go to it at any point and again see that carbon benefit of running that infrastructure within Google Cloud. We also recently announced that we're also doing carbon footprint reporting against our workspace solutions. So people that are leveraging our corporate email products, workspace products, etc., they also are now able to capture that carbon benefit in a report. And then, of course, Mongo has built on top of that with some really incredible insights.
Yes, we're kind of taking that good work done by Google and surfacing it to our customers so they can make sure when they're using MongoDB Atlas, they can be making more sustainable choices. We've added a little leafy green icon on our cloud provider and region UI to show which cloud regions are renewable powered so that when our customers are in the console building database instances, they can make sure that they're doing it in a way that is in accordance to their wish to use renewable energy.
And again, Ben, having that sort of 10x impact of us building that infrastructure in a way and reporting against it within our own carbon footprint tooling, it affords companies like Mongo the opportunity to provide some of these options for customers when they're deploying. So they can say, do I want to go to a region with Google Cloud where we are powered, as I mentioned on the earlier slide, by 85, 90% renewable energy? It's just this compound effect that really is required at the moment for all of us to meet our current sustainability goals.
Absolutely. And I know both Google Cloud and MongoDB have a big focus on retail, and retail is under a lot of pressure than most to be sustainable, both by governments and customers. How has this created the shifts in attitude about sustainability for the retail industry?
Well, in a big way, this trend is also driven by the consumers. A recent study by Google showed that 82% of consumers say sustainability is more top of mind than it was before COVID-19. So these consumers are voting with their dollars. They want to be spending their money with retailers who are building and selling things in accordance to their ethics. And they'll move between retailers if they think that the company that they're buying from doesn't meet their standards. We're also seeing an influx of kind of rules and regulations, initiatives around being more eco-conscious. There's been pressure from all sides for retailers to start these sustainable initiatives and build applications, build new initiatives into their tech stack that are delivering sustainable results.
The interesting thing about this study, though, as well, Genevieve, was if you make it hard on consumers to understand your sustainability, current, presence, or how you're meeting these goals, they move away very quickly, Ben. So it's on all of us to make sure that we're helping support the retailers in really updating their brand messaging to reflect these investments that they're making in sustainability. And we are very fortunate, both Mongo and Google, to have incredible retailers working with both of us. And as you know, we want to make it as easy as possible when people are searching for the things that they need to be able to identify retailers that are stepping up around sustainability. And then, more importantly, as Genevieve was just saying, this regulatory reporting that is now being required on these companies to actually justify the statements that they're making publicly. Consumers want more sustainable companies. Executives want to say that they're sustainable, but I think they also want to have the reporting on the back end that basically is transparent, helps people understand that, yes, they are taking the steps required. And this is, again, where the tooling that we just showed you, the carbon footprint reporting, and what Mongo is doing can help companies feel, comfortable making these public declarations about their current sustainability presence.
Can you give me an example of a customer you're working with who has made that shift successfully?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to. I think many of us globally are familiar with the brand L'Oreal. And obviously, during COVID, right, L'Oreal experienced some significant growth. And so, with that, again, they need more infrastructure, like Genevieve said, as they're accommodating all of these new customers, more online transactions, greater increase in their logistics. They need that database infrastructure in order to power it. But again, so if I'm adding database infrastructure or other types of infrastructure, in order to tell my consumers that I'm doing that in a sustainable way, you have to leverage the reporting that we mentioned earlier, or the decision making and where and when you deploy those resources. So L'Oreal is taking advantage of the Google Cloud carbon footprint reporting tool within their Google Cloud console to basically audit and inventory the carbon benefit of everything that they're running with Google Cloud, so that when they come out publicly and talk about the sustainability position of L'Oreal, they can come from a position of educated, transparent data in order to inform those statements that they're making publicly. We're really, really proud of the partnership here with L'Oreal.
Yeah, that's a great example. Genevieve, can you tell us a little about the kind of sustainable initiatives you're seeing from your customers?
Yes, absolutely. So, what we've talked about so far is kind of building on a sustainable cloud platform through MongoDB Atlas and GCP. But there's more when it comes to sustainability than that. Retailers are building up applications and starting initiatives that go across the organization to become more sustainable. What we've talked about so far falls into this first pillar on the left hand side: lower resource utilization. So, offices, tech stacks, functions, even lighting in warehouse and distribution centers, turning things off, understanding machinery performance, etc. This is a key way that retailers can become more sustainable. A second pillar is all around the circular economy. Retailers are embarking on new initiative for customers to be able to return products and buy things secondhand. Retailers have to be able to reuse, recycle, repair, or repurpose these through their ecosystems. This requires a lot of data coming into the system, a lot of data coming out of the system, and retailers are having to bring up new routes to market when it comes to bringing those products back out for sale. The third piece is all about packaging and wastage. So, reduction in packaging, moving to eco-friendly options, etc., but also lowering wastage by making better stock and inventory management decisions. And there's an unbelievable amount of stock wastage every year, be it in grocery or fashion, etc. By making sure you're ordering the right stock, making the right decisions when it comes to demand forecasting, you're making sure you're not creating things that are going to be destroyed, and that the items are in the right place for your customer to purchase them. And the last piece is quite a general one, but all around supply chain optimization. Retailers run absolutely huge distribution networks, and they're responsible for the logistics and movements of products all around the world. Optimization of planning and routing can reduce fuel and transport utilizations. Making clever decisions with your data through cloud infrastructure that can support that easily, gives you insight from which you can reduce that resource consumption as you're physically moving those products around the world.
Genevieve, I love these pillars. Of course, you share many of these with Google Cloud, and some of the examples that you gave, particularly around supply chain optimization. This is a big area of focus for Google. And as you mentioned, it goes beyond just carbon footprint reporting. When I talked about what we're doing with our consumers, where we've introduced eco routing options for people using Google Maps, that same technology is being offered to partners building solutions on Google Cloud, so that, like you said, we can pick the most eco-friendly route for deliveries. We're also using a lot of Gen AI and machine learning in order to understand, like you said, what is customer demand or consumer demand in particular areas? How do we meet the moment? And again, work with partners like you all to surface all of that through database infrastructure so that people can make the right decisions. I think on the packaging and wastage, you're 100% correct. And I think that this is something that we all need to lean in on. But it will take the aggregation of data from both our consumers, from our customers, our mutual customers, Genevieve, and then from all of us to basically understand, new materials that we can use to actually build these innovative sustainability products. Like you said, track them through the entire life cycle, cradle to cradle, as they say, and make sure that we're keeping things out of landfills, which I think is ultimately our goal. Landfills are oceans. So appreciate how you've laid this out here.
Yeah, and I think a huge one is the circular economy. When we think about it from a data perspective, the buying cycle used to end when the customer was at the till. Now that's the start of your relationship with that customer. Some retailers are offering or kind of creating initiatives where someone can bring back an item 10 years later. So now you need 10 years of order data that's available for use. These aren't easy challenges for retailers to create clever solutions for. It's very difficult to do at scale. And you also want to be doing it in a sustainable way. A lot of it is having the right access to the right data at the right time and having the ability to easily run easy analytics, difficult analytics, to be able to really see what are the pinch points in your organization where you could be saving resources.
We've talked about how these sustainability initiatives, I'm sure they're launching huge technical programs, leading to new app development and creating new data challenges. Can you give some examples of how a retailer might leverage the technology available at Google Cloud and MongoDB to help with these efforts?
Sure. Well, between MongoDB and Google, we have huge footprints in the retail industry, and there's millions of examples I could give along. But here's one simple architecture that's quite common: the use of MongoDB Atlas as an operational database. Giving the fast performance access to data. We also give the ability to do real-time in-app analytics. So let's take an example of routing logistics drivers. A complex problem when it comes to which driver should pick up which item and bring it to which person. You need a fast performant database to do the driver allocation, to give the route information to those drivers. But what if we were able to add some intelligence into those decisions to save on resources and save on consumption? Well, within MongoDB, our architecture gives the ability to have secondary nodes for analytics. So you have access to real-time data to make real-time smart decisions. So for example, you could use the aggregation framework in MongoDB to do some optimized routing, etc. For example, what's the most efficient way to assign driver routes based on their proximity to the distribution centers and their destinations? You've saved money, you can process more deliveries, and also you're saving on petrol, etc. But then what about long-term analytics over time? Often our customers who are building estates in Google Cloud also want to use Google BigQuery to do those really complex analysis and compare to past behavior. For that, we've got automated templates so you can easily move your data backwards and forwards from Google BigQuery to get some answers to complicated questions. So if we think of that driver routing example, can we compare those routes taken today to yesterday or last year? Or can we factor in the weather to improve the routing assignations over time? The ability to have your data accessible, to be able to ask different types of questions to your data in real time really easily in a way that's not creating a complex architecture. These are technologies that work together seamlessly, is giving retailers the ability to leverage real-time data for those sustainable insights.
Love that you mentioned BigQuery, Genevieve, because as you said, so many of our customers take data from something like MongoDB and move it over into BigQuery, where they enrich it with either their own first party data from other sources or third party data. You mentioned weather. Of course, weather, things like vehicle telematics, which is, again, one of our partners on Google Cloud has an amazing tool for that, where you can understand it's not just the driver and the truck, but what's the driver's behavior. And like you said, idling opportunities, weather impacts, etc. You really need to bring all of those insights together in one place and be able, again, in some cases now to use like generative AI to ask questions against that data to make these informed decisions. And so this ability to connect data and insights to things like BigQuery on Google Cloud and have an ecosystem of partners that are doing the same thing, it really allows our customers real time, as you mentioned, Genevieve, access to these critical data sets so that they can improve their decision making. And ultimately, as I think we've discussed somewhat tangentially during this conversation, but hopefully it's coming home for everyone, when you make these operational improvements, that is a sustainable improvement. And so we can capture it not only with just infrastructure, cloud infrastructure with optimized instances from MongoDB, but the decisions that customers are making from that infrastructure to improve things like routing. That's a critical sustainability moment for these companies. And by the way, saves them a lot of money. As you said, Genevieve, in some cases, it could be just gasoline for the internal combustion engine vehicles, but now they can also make decisions on which of those vehicles could we electrify. And how exciting is that? Because then, of course, we're removing a lot of carbon footprint from the environment. And we're also reducing, optimization for those vehicles themselves. It's a whole lot easier to manage an electric vehicle than a really robust internal combustion engine out on the road. So like you said, Genevieve, but the root of it is you have to have the foundational elements of sustainable infrastructure, the right database infrastructure to aggregate all of this information, and then the connectors to things like BigQuery, where we can start to bring some of these other data sets into play and ask these interesting questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said there, Denise. And I think the bringing generative AI and vector search into it is actually one of the ways we're helping some of our customers with these sustainability challenges. We're working with railroads across Europe doing intelligent predictive maintenance opportunities, and even with the car manufacturer in Europe, where they've recorded engine sounds and then they use generative AI to play those sounds into their database or describe the sound, and it'll automatically tell them what's wrong with that engine. So there's hundreds of ways that we're using technology and data in a clever way in order to make these machines run better, make these organizations run better. And retailers are looking at all types of new technology, and we're helping them on the way to make more sustainable choices.
And Denise, can you tell us a little bit more about the sustainable foundation that is built on Google Cloud? For example, what are the types of sustainability?
I think that what we've talked about today is there's sort of two pillars where you can consider sustainability, I think, at least for Mongo and Google Cloud coming together. The first is that digital sustainability. How can we help people with their IT infrastructure, whether it's cloud-based resources or amazing databases like MongoDB? How can we just be more efficient with that resourcing? So really IT-led operations initiatives around sustainability. But like Genevieve said, once you get that done and you start to understand what data and what insights are actually being driven by something like MongoDB, you move into that second pillar, which is business level operational sustainability. How can I now be smarter about maybe the raw materials that I'm using to create the products so that when I go on that circularity journey, it's a whole lot easier to recycle the materials into something new, right? That's operational sustainability. That's product innovation. But they can't make those decisions without sort of aggregating all of that data in one place. And like you said, Genevieve, connecting some of that data to something like BigQuery, where we get other third-party data sets. So that moves into that operational sustainability. I think also once we identify the raw materials for these products and we move them into mills or into manufacturing facilities, we have to understand the energy use, the processing, the logistics of just migrating the raw materials. This is before something's even been made. But we, again, for retailers, they're going down all the way to the first mile. They're now being held to account for their entire value chain. Is sustainability present on every step of the journey? Raw material sourcing, milling and manufacturing, logistics and distribution, energy use assigned to all of that. And then, as Genevieve mentioned, it's really just the start, because that circularity is where it all comes, front and center with our consumers. And by the way, if you don't have all of those early pillars satisfied, you really can't demonstrate to your consumers that circularity and that sustainability position in your branding. Executives don't feel comfortable making those statements without all of those other pieces in place. So we have to start with, again, digital sustainability. How can Google Cloud and MongoDB just be better about our infrastructure assets, make those more sustainable, but then take you on this journey of operational sustainability. The data that's being aggregated into MongoDB will help you make better operational sustainability decisions. And that's what really allows you to take these corporate or public sustainability positions with your consumers, which is where we all want to get to. It goes to the very first part of what we were talking about. The consumers are demanding this from us. And how do we move faster through data to be able to inform consumers the intelligent, sustainable decisions that we're making? Genevieve, do you agree with that sort of how I've broken it out into those two pillars?
Yes, completely. I think, it's the two key things. One is building on a platform that you know is sustainable. So any applications, anything you're building on top of MongoDB on Google Cloud, you know that you've got that sustainable foundation and that everything is being done to their best power to store your data, run your applications in a sustainable way. And then it's up to us as technology companies to give you the tools to be able to leverage that data, leverage what you have in your estate to create these results when it comes to sustainable initiatives. We know these are new applications. We know they're difficult data challenges to solve. We're here to try to give our customers the right tools to be able to work with their data and get those insights out of the data in real time. So yeah, sustainable foundation for sustainable initiatives. Not always easy to give.
That was excellent, but unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Once again, I want to thank Denise Pearl from Google Cloud and Genevieve Broadhead from MongoDB for their insight. And thanks to everyone for watching. Have a great day.